Hello and welcome to Guftagoo series new episode number 12. In today's episode, we have with us our very special guest, faculty, and a very dear colleague of mine, Dr. Navreet Sahi. Dr. Navreet Sahi is a faculty of English Literature in Chitrakoot School of Liberal Arts. She teaches English Literature to UG students, to PG students, and she also supervises research scholar for their doctoral study. Her area of specialization is in cultural studies and American literature. आज की हमारी जो ये बातचीत है गुफ्तगू एपिसोड की हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में होने वाली है और आज की इस बातचीत में हम नवरीत साही मैम से जानेंगे लिटरेचर और लिटरेचर के इम्पैक्ट के बारे में, इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के इम्पैक्ट के बारे में एकेडमिक्स में, फ्रॉम इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट, a bit about her career, her journey in her academics, how it has been, how she ended up choosing English literature as her choice of study, and further how she ended up becoming a professor in English literature. So let's begin our introduction. Very much welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sahai.
Ma'am, let's quickly begin the discussion with the first question that I had in my mind is about your early life and schooling. Where was your early life in terms of your schooling? Where was it from? What kind of subjects did you choose? And what were your interest areas like?
Early life, I would say I had changed several schools, but I went to a boarding school when I was in class 4, and it was YPS Patiala. I stayed in that school for 3 years, and thereafter, interestingly, I moved to Kasauli, here in St. Mary's Convent School. I completed my schooling then from St. Mary's Convent. Again, it was a boarding school, and that's how my connection with Himachal Pradesh actually really began. Then I chose humanities. I studied humanities. I wasn't a very bright student as far as mathematics was concerned. English, and I somehow was always good with languages, whether it was English, Hindi, or Punjabi. I used to do well with them, and humanities was kind of my area. So then, so I decided to pursue English literature even in my graduation. So I did English honours from MCMDAV in Chandigarh. Thereafter, I moved to Punjab University, from where I did my masters in English and then my MPhil and also my doctorate.
Okay. And when you were pursuing your 11th and 12th standard and when you chose humanities, which were the subjects that you were more interested in? Was it literature from the beginning itself, English literature from beginning itself? As you told me
Hmm.
that you were good with Hindi
Hmm.
and Punjabi as well, and you used to like to study Hindi and Punjabi as well. So, amongst these three languages, which was one of the most interesting and intriguing language for you?
As far as languages were concerned, I chose English because kind of my command was most in this language.
Mm-hmm.
But I was interested in geography. So
Okay.
I studied history as well as geography and English literature. Punjabi was a compulsory language which I had taken up
Mm-hmm.
because I had not done Punjabi in class 10. So I decided to do it in class 12, being from Punjab, that it may be
Right,
required
right.
some
So it was a mandatory,
kind of a
compulsory
thing that I
language that you
picked
had
up.
to
Yes,
study along with your
along with
other
others.
core subjects
Yes.
that you had.
But geography had my heart, and I
Okay.
did the best in geography. And
So
then
in
I
your 11th
decided,
and 12th
yes,
standard.
and I also thought that I will continue with geography honors and I will go on to do MSc in geography, and probably one
Oh,
day I will go and
okay.
join the Met department. So it
All right.
fascinated me a lot.
All right.
But the circumstances became such that the college which I wanted to join didn't have geography.
Okay.
And the one which had geography, I wasn't very keen on joining that.
Mhm.
So I had to kind of make a choice there. And that's where the choice was really made. I decided to then go with English honors. And
So
since then, there's been no looking
because
back.
you were not getting admission in your
No, I was getting
desired
admission
college.
everywhere.
No, no, no. For geography, you were not finding the
I
right
got,
kind of college.
that's the college I didn't like much. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Right.
So
So later, then you finally decided that you'll opt for English literature
Yes.
in your graduation.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So in all 3 years you had uh, English honors study.
Yeah, we
So
had
you
two
were
years of
entirely
English.
studying
No.
core courses of English.
No. I've done it from Punjab University, so it works a little different there. We have English honors, so we have additional subjects of English honors, but we have primary subjects. I had political science and history.
Right. So in your first and second year, you had
Third year also.
Third year
Yes,
also.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So in all 3 years, you had other papers as well,
Yes.
along with literature, which was your specialization
That's
paper.
correct.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So while you were pursuing your graduation, what was it that intrigued you most in literature? In terms of, was it drama? Was it play? Was it short story? Was it poem? What was it?
Yeah, so this is very interesting actually. If you would ask me how I would like to spend my time with a literary genre, I would say that I would like to read a novel.
Okay.
But when it comes to studying, I always liked to study poetry. And in fact, when I used to sit in the class and the teachers used to teach, I couldn't understand a single word of poetry that was written. So I was all ears. I used to make notes most diligently. And I always felt that poetry was something that I would never be able to understand if a poem was kept in front of me and I was told that give us the meaning of this poem, I wouldn't be able to give it. I will first have to be told that this is what the meaning of the poem is, and it's only after that that I'll be able to make some sense of it. Cut to this day, I teach all courses of poetry. The most difficult poetry courses are given to me because I consider myself to be an expert. Give me a poem and I can teach it.
So how did you develop that skill of understanding poetry
I think
and getting into the deeper nuances of poetry? I mean,
honestly,
in graduation, I'm talking about. Initially, the kind of challenge that you face in the first year.
Graduation में I may not have. मुझे नहीं लगता मैंने graduation में ये challenge कर लिया होगा cover. मुझे नहीं लगता. I think graduation
it took some more time.
मुझे लगता है
PG,
masters के बाद
PG
ही I would have been able to do this.
मतलब masters तक आते आते आपने realize किया होगा कि you slowly and steadily.
It was one day that I realized that poetry, teaching poetry. I tell you what, I went for an interview. That's when I realized हुआ कब ये तो मुझे पता ही नहीं चला.
Okay.
वो journey में, there is not one point that I can point or not one year.
That I agree. It is a process.
So वो कभी हो गया होगा.
हाँ.
And मुझे कभी नहीं समझ आया होगा. So finally, when did I realize this? So this was in
I agree. वो तो एक process है. लेकिन what I wanted to know
I'm telling
is,
you, I'm coming to that. Hey,
what
this
helped
is,
you?
What helped me? I guess the biggest advantage with poetry was that every single word had a meaning. You cannot write, it is very difficult to write poetry. It wasn't a story which was just moving on and you were reading and you were immersed. Writing a poem requires a lot of talent and it requires a lot of emotion. And if as a writer you're able to connect to the reader, then I feel that it is a poem which is able to evoke the desired emotion and it is a success. So poetry is very intriguing. It is something that touches you.
Right.
So every single line having a meaning. I think if I go back to my favorite times which may have attracted me towards poetry, if I have to name a few texts, they would be Paradise Lost by Milton and my all-time favorite, Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. And every couplet makes me smile. Sometimes when I'm teaching it in the class, I feel the students must be thinking that I'm crazy. Because that impacts the way the authors are reflected, although we have started saying that the authorial intent is not something which is important at all. But when I teach Yeats, when I teach his his Irish poems or the ones which have Irish mythology, when I teach all of these poems, I somehow feel so alive from the inside. And I also feel that there is so much that I can say from my perspective rather than just the story which is there.
I agree.
And there's one more aspect to it. Teaching poetry gives me more happiness than reading it.
Right.
Because I feel that, again, the students are struggling with the same problem that I was struggling
That you
with.
were struggling with.
That
Right.
they can understand a novel, they can understand a drama which is written normally, but verse is something that they want help with.
Mhm.
And when I'm doing that, I give my, my 100%,
Mhm.
feeling that I'm kind of feeling all the time that yes, I am doing something which they really need at that time. If I'm talking so much, if I'm trying to explain something in so much of detail, it is going to help them.
Mhm.
So that's about it.
So, in your graduation, the 3 years of your graduation, when you were trying to make sense of different kinds of poetry, different forms of poetry, I believe, uh, what was it that you know touched you the most amongst different genres of poetry? You spoke about some of them. Uh,
Different types of,
Different
yeah.
types of poetries,
Mm.
the way in which it is written, the way in which it is structured. What is it that got you interested more in that form of
Mhm.
poetry?
So I would say that there were different, when we talk about poetry, so there are different kinds of poetry related to the various ages or eras that we had
Right.
in, yes. So we had the metaphysical poets. I would say that metaphysical poetry is what kind of got me in, because it was a poem, it was the kind of poetry which required extreme level of intellect,
Mhm.
knowledge, and it was being written at a time when religion played a very important role. And
Right.
there's a particular poet I'm very fond of, John Donne.
Mhm.
He writes religious poetry as well as amorous poetry.
Mhm.
The way he talked, and he uses conceits. Conceits would be
Mm.
far-fetched comparisons between two very different things.
Okay.
And he's and other metaphysical poets as well. So the way they used to write poetry and how they, I somehow felt that while when we write any kind of literature, whether it's a poem or it's an expression of your um, emotions as well as your opinions,
Mm.
and each era has that kind of literature where we are trying to showcase the realities that we are living in.
Okay.
And out of those realities, we are also trying to point out certain errors of the social structures that we are living with, those cultural, social, economic um, problems that the world is facing at that point of time. So that was very intriguing. Paradise Lost also comes at the same time,
Mm.
and you see that religion played a very important role. Despite that, how John Donne in that era, being a priest himself, writes about love
Love. Okay.
and places it above religion
Right.
as a priest. It was mind blowing, and there's no one that ever questioned that. Otherwise,
Mm.
you have so many novels which were
Correct.
banned.
Right. In that era, at that
Yes,
time.
and
Right.
that is bold.
Absolutely.
That requires creativity, strength, courage, and it also requires a lot of intellect.
Absolutely.
So I think it is how you're able to, again, as I would say, that every single line would have
Mm.
multiple meanings. So when you're writing a poem or when you're reading a poem, you just don't read it for the, a whole theme that it's
Mhm.
talking about.
Right.
You read it for every single word and what it's trying to convey and all the poetic devices which are used in it. So I think that's
That's
what
what
is
it
very
is.
intriguing.
Right. What about the fact that when you were in your graduation, were you clear in your mind that going further you would continue your career path in studying literature further in the form of academics, going for your master's and your PhD, and then finally becoming a professor of English?
I would say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
My father was very keen on me joining the civil services,
Okay.
and I was a very sincere student.
Mm-hmm.
I was a very dedicated student, and I topped the university in graduation. I was the gold medalist in Punjab University in
Mm-hmm.
English honors.
Mm-hmm.
And every person who met my father used to say that, oh, she can sit for hours to study. Why don't you try to help her get into UPSC?
Mm.
And I also had a lot of interest in political science also. History was not that it did not fascinate me as much as political science did,
Political
because it's
science.
current affairs.
Right.
So we studied the legislature of USA, of Switzerland, China.
The comparative
Yes, yes,
politics.
yes, yes.
Right.
So, and that was a good time because the syllabus was structured in such a way that
Mm.
the history, political science, and English literature, particularly the honors syllabus, it all aligned. So that
There
when you
was a lot of
studied
correlation
history,
in
you
it.
could
Right.
understand why such books were being written, why the
Mm.
political system
Mm.
was such, etc. But yes, I wanted to go for UPSC, and MA English was on my mind. But what
Mm.
I thought was that I would be doing MA English, and probably along with that, I'll go in for UPSC.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went in for UPSC,
Oh, you
I
started with
yes, I
preparation
also
for.
started
Oh,
it.
really?
Yes,
Wow.
I realized that it was something that was not meant for me. Probably I had already crossed that stage where I could sit down and study like this. Literature had already taken me into a different dreamland.
Mm-hmm.
So and also I was told that you should give up on your masters. If you
Mm.
want to clear your UPSC, you
You'll
should
have
give
to
up
take
on
a break.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to just focus on.
That kind of put me in a fix. I had to make a choice there, because what
Mm.
if I'm not able to do this, and then I'm not left with anything.
Mm.
So that's when I made this choice of continuing with my masters.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, I'll tell you over here that I, in the meantime, cleared my SSB
Oh, wow.
while doing my masters in the very first year.
Written and physical both.
I didn't have to sit for the written exam, because at that time there was this particular thing, because due to which I could like the NCCC certificate thing. So
Oh,
I
right.
had something like that, which I could skip the written exam.
Mm-hmm.
So I directly went to the SSB, which I cleared also.
Oh, wonderful.
But I was so scared of joining the army, and I was so scared of the fact that I wouldn't have many options to then later on marry also.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to marry an army officer, and then
Yes.
so I thought, no, 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 this is not again my cup of tea. I again left it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to my English, and then I never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
After that, there was no, but all of these were kind of influences from here and there.
But
Things
was it
which,
challenging to discuss it with your family and convince them for this? I mean,
the UPSC part was.
especially your father.
The UPSC part was very
Mm.
challenging, of course,
Mm.
because my father thought that I was
Yes.
the biggest
Made for
fool.
this. Made for
Yes, and
civil services.
I've really done something, and even today he feels that my daughter may probably be able to do something better.
Everything, but
yes, which I
yeah,
was
that
not.
aspect has been left
Yes.
out. Right.
But for the armed forces, not really,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that I never wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. So I told him that if I clear, I need your promise that you will not make me join. Let this just be for an exposure, for knowing
Just for
what's-
experience sake, I will give
Yes.
it and see.
So it was in Allahabad
Okay.
in 2005,
Oh. Okay.
December 2005, that I had cleared it. The
Okay.
result was out in March, and that's when I finally decided that no, I was not going.
You're not going.
Yes.
You continue with your academics.
And the irony of the fact that I ultimately actually ended up marrying an army officer.
Yeah, I was going to come to that, but I wanted you to say it by yourself. We'll come to that also. So when you entered into your master's study, so you did your master's also from PU,
Yes.
right? And while you were studying your master's in English literature, what were the kind of papers that you were studying, courses that you were studying?
We had a very limited course.
Yeah, because why I've asked you this question is because I'm sure there has been a lot of change from our time to now in terms of the syllabus and the kind of readings that are offered to students. So, what were the kind of readings that were offered to you in your courses?
The first thing that I would like to mention over here is that we were in an annual system.
Mm.
In an
Not
annual
semester
system, you do not have an option of so many subjects.
Right.
So, for example, now there are 4 semesters. So, you have in each semester you have 4 different courses.
Mm-hmm.
When you have only 2 years, you will only have 8 courses. So first of all, we were being taught only 8 courses. Out of those, both the years, first year and second year, one course each was dedicated to Indian writings in English. One was dedicated to the criticism that we still, of course, continue. And then we were given certain choices that you can pick and choose. Post-colonial literatures had just come in. Some of the students went in with post-colonial literatures. Linguistics was quite picking up. I did none of these. I
Okay.
went.
I thought you'd say I chose one of them, and then you said.
I did none of these.
Okay.
So I picked up Shakespeare and I picked up American literature.
Alright.
Yes.
Mm.
Ironically, post-colonial literature is something where my heart lies these
Whoa.
nowadays, and so
Okay.
many of my students are also working in post-colonial literature. In fact,
Mm.
I also kind of worked on it
Mm.
to a large extent.
Mhm. I wanted to know from you. I mean, you were talking about, you were very fondly talking about your graduation days, the kind of papers you
Hmm.
studied, and also the different forms of poetry you spoke about. Uh, Looking back to that time, what would it be that you would like to say to younger Navreet who was pursuing graduation in English literature in terms of uh, coping and dealing with different kinds of limitation in terms of understanding literature of different kinds? When you look back to your life journey so far as a teacher now of English literature, what is it that comes to your mind, which generally we think about that probably 10, 15 years back, had I known this, I would have done things slightly differently, or maybe added
Hmm.
that thing to my, or probably this could have been during my time, I would have been totally different.
I would answer this question a little differently because when I look back to my graduation, I think that everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any limitations. I wouldn't look because even the core courses I used to uh, top, even in political science, history, even
Mm-hmm.
Punjabi for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
That was the golden
Right.
period of my life, in fact.
Okay.
Yes. So when I look back to my graduation period, I feel that I did not take enough from there to my post graduation because there I didn't get any medal.
Mm.
And that's where I learned my lesson. And then finally I did it again in MPhil.
Okay.
So yeah, if my limitations, if I you would say,
No,
were
I
all
mean,
of
when I
them.
said limitation, I do not generally mean limitation per se. I What I meant was something which you think was missing at that point of time,
uh,
right?
um,
When you look back now
I
and
think I
see
would
it.
have taken psychology as a subject.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
And in fact, during my counseling, I was even asked to, but somehow did not
Psychology
have
along
the.
with literature.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think I would have liked to do that. And why?
Hmm.
Because later on, my PhD also was on personality
All
studies.
right.
And to a large extent, psychoanalysis is something which has always fascinated me. And
Right.
kind of with literary analysis or with literature, it is psychoanalysis which has always stayed with me. And that
Mm-hmm.
has become a very important field of research also for me at a later stage. So,
Mm-hmm.
looking back at it, I think psychology may have been a very wise choice for me in my graduation.
Mm-hmm. Right. And in
And
your
also because it aligns with literature, no? Because
wow,
it's
yes,
about
yes, absolutely,
life.
it
Yes.
does. So, going further in your MPhil study, uh, you must have had the last year of MPhil uh, in terms of writing a
Hmm.
small dissertation, I believe,
That's
right?
right.
That's part of MPhil
Hmm.
degree. So, what was your area of study in your MPhil dissertation?
My area of study was the anti-heroes. So
Anti-heroes.
yes,
Okay.
the anti-heroes. It would be he would be the hero of his story, but he wouldn't have any of the traditional heroic qualities.
So you have chosen certain texts.
Yes, I had chosen certain texts. So my to be very
Mm,
precise,
mm,
it was based on the anti-heroes. It was a comparison between the anti-heroes of the Western literature as well as Indian literature. So from Indian writings, I had chosen R.K. Narayan's Guide, and I'm sure a
mm,
lot of people would be familiar with that. There's also a film on that. So R.K. Narayan's Guide and G.V. Dasani is all about H. Hatter.
oh,
That's a
wow.
lesser known book, but a very strong one. And in fact, it wasn't available in India. That's the
Mm,
irony again.
mm,
The book was written by an Indian, but it was not available in India, so I had to actually order it from the US.
okay.
Then there was a Russian book. Um, it was The Dead Souls by Nikolai Gogol. and again a very famous one by Mark Twain, the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So
Mhm.
these are the books that I had worked on
And
in
you were
my MPhil.
focusing on anti-heroes.
Yes, the characters, the main characters, they were all
Right.
picaresque characters, the movie called the rogue characters,
Yes.
the tricksters, as we say,
Mhm.
and how, um, because they are not born with a silver spoon. So, what would a hero look like? He would be of a noble birth. He would be very honest. He would be maybe sometimes good looking. He would always strive for um, something good. He would be morally upright.
Mm.
And he would always want to do something larger than life. He would always be ready to sacrifice his life for the larger good of the society.
Larger group.
On the contrary, the hero would be of low birth, he would be a vagabond, he would be kind of illiterate, he would survive on his tricks, he would be morally low, and he would be ready to do things just for himself. How each of these, they start off like that,
Right.
but in each of these books, if you
They
will
end
look
up
at it,
differently.
yes, they end up, in fact, in Guide, he gives up his life for the people, just for their
Absolutely.
belief.
Right.
And despite the fact that he knows that it's not going to make any difference, but he starts believing it for them.
Right.
So
Is the movie very much relatable
it is
to the
same.
book?
Yes, yes,
Exactly, very much
it is
closely
based.
related.
Yes, closely, very closely.
Okay. So, and in these three texts that you spoke about,
Four.
four,
Yes.
right? So, uh, all these four anti-heroes are of different kinds, I believe.
Different cultures.
Different cultures,
Mm.
and in terms of their traits also, they are very
Yes.
much different.
Yes, yes.
Right. And so is their conclusion as well, their
Exactly.
end as well.
Exactly.
Right. Uh, Further, what did you decide for your doctoral study? Uh, what area of specialization did you choose?
In fact, I moved in with the similar concept in my doctoral studies as well.
Mhm.
I worked on Michael Jackson,
Right.
and it was in the year 2009, and Michael Jackson had uh, just passed away in July. I
Oh.
started working on my PhD in August,
Mhm.
and to be very honest, that was a topic that I'd never really thought of myself. It was a topic that my guide had suggested to me.
Mhm.
And I was not a Michael Jackson fan. I wasn't a Michael Jackson fan. I did not dislike him. I did not like him. I was the kind of very neutral person who'd heard a few of his songs. That, of course, anyone, for example, everybody knows who Shakespeare is, or everybody knows who Amitabh Bachchan is, or Sachin Tendulkar
Right.
is. That way, I knew who who
Michael
Michael Jackson is,
is.
and I had seen a few of his
Yes.
videos, etc. That's about it. And when I was suggested this topic, I was just told to work on Michael Jackson. Now, on what aspect?
Mhm.
This was up to me to decide.
Mhm.
So when I started reading up on Michael Jackson, I came to the conclusion that he was also kind of an anti-hero,
Anti-hero.
low birth, who had to struggle for himself, who had to,
Mm.
and had to actually resort to so many things, and he, a lot of groundbreaking things that he had done for the blacks and the
Right.
black artists as well. But initially, I thought it would be very difficult, so I pleaded with my guide. I said, "Oh, I don't think I can do this."
Mhm.
But then she says, "This is what only you can do, and I want you to do
Why
it because
did you think that was difficult?
because
Because of, I mean, limitation of, or challenges of finding sources of.
sources, as I would say, you would say that's right. Of course, that is the biggest problem that you would face. But this was in 2009. The you do not have any artificial intelligence to help you.
Absolutely.
The
not.
internet, all of these things were not there as such.
Right.
But see, we were coming from a literature background. We were used to working on the written word.
Absolutely.
Suddenly, somebody tells you to work on a person.
Mm.
You're just taken aback, and everybody's taken aback.
Correct.
At that time, it was very difficult. Now, coming back to it now
Correct.
after 15 years, it is still a topic which excites a little bit of
Right.
interest when I talk about it. But yes, it was
Right.
difficult because
It
I
was
was
also
going.
fresh in news as well. right?
Yes.
It recently
So
passed
I
away.
had to work on various aspects on
Mm.
his songs, on his lyrics, on his music, on his
Mm.
dance, on his
Mm.
life, on his personality, on so many other
Mm.
uh, allegations
At the
that he
same
was
time,
also
you
going.
had to focus the fact that your main point of your study is how he emerges as
As the
a
hero of
you know,
people as
people
well.
as well,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, so it was a long, I think the first 2 years I spent in downloading every single song and video that I could come
Oh,
across and watching every video. There was this final film documentary made on him. And my supervisor and I, we both went to the theaters to watch it together. It was
mm,
This Is It.
mm,
And the best part that I would want to, then as I told you, that I use the personality theory to justify
mhm,
my arguments, whatever I was making in my thesis. But the very interesting thing that came out was that I kind of started liking him after researching on him.
mhm.
And, the fact that so many people still believe that he was a pedophile, so many people still believe that he changed his skin color,
Absolutely.
and he was weird.
Mm.
And I wouldn't take that away from anybody's opinion. But then there was reasons. It's only when you really, when we say that,
You
it's
reach
not that,
that
yes,
level of power,
yes,
you then realize the complexities of it,
extreme talent,
extreme talent, and then complexities of it.
yes. So he
With
did,
popularity, a lot
yes.
of conspiracy theories also,
Oh,
arose,
yes, very
right?
true. Very
Right.
true. I agree with you there also. And the fact that Michael Jackson was a brilliant mind,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
such a brilliant mind, and he was a perfectionist.
Correct.
If he would dance, he would choreograph for himself. He would create his own music. He would write his own lyrics. He would, make his every single thing, his costumes, everything would be decided by him. So he
Mm.
was all in all. And how could one person be so perfect in everything? So when there is that level of genius, I think we've experienced this over a year, over our lives, and we've read about it also, that that person cannot align with the regular people of his of the social structure. So
Mm.
he will certainly do certain things which we as normal human beings would find odd or
Mm.
awkward. But as an artist, because I look at him as an artist and I also look at him as a person.
Mm.
I look at him as the person against whom there were a lot of allegations of
Correct.
child abuse. I feel that most of them were wrong, and ultimately, I do come to the conclusion that he was a brilliant mind and a brilliant person,
Mm.
and people worshipped him. He ultimately turned out to be a cult hero, and so much so he has done so much for the environment. I mean, this may be out of line here, but
Right.
during COVID in 2020, the first two lines that I could think of were Michael Jackson's: heal the world, make it a better place for
Make it
you
a
and for me and the entire human race. So I think
right.
he's really left an indelible impact upon
Yes.
the society.
So by the time you had started researching on Jackson and his legacy, his cult, and the way he impacted the music, genre that he was creating music for. Uh, was there any kind of research already done or available that you came across, apart from the documentaries and his songs that you
That time
may have
it
listened to?
wasn't. During that period of time,
So
no.
there was
Now there is a
nothing as
lot.
such.
Hmm.
Now there is a lot, of course.
Now there is a lot. During that time, there wasn't.
Uh,
I had to rely on his autobiography
mhm.
and a few of very few of the very close autobiographies, his interviews. These
Mm.
were the primary sources I had to really rely upon. There were
Right.
very few secondary sources, and then there were certain books written against him, accusing him of
Correct.
being a pedophile.
Pedophile and several other
Yes,
charges against him.
yes, of being, because he had his own Neverland,
Yes.
how he lived. So, of course, I read a lot about him. I watched those videos. You can never really finally say anything with finality about anything.
Absolutely.
Based on my research and based on whatever material I had at that time, this is what my conclusion was
Mm.
then, and
Mm.
probably I still stand by it even
Mm.
today. I'm not claiming that the person was this or that.
Right.
Yes. So, but based on what I have read about him, I've seen him or heard him, I think the conclusion that I come to the end in the end is that yes, he was a hero of the people.
Hmm. Right. Uh, After your research study in PhD, uh, what made you go ahead with your choice of academics in terms of teaching? Basically, were you clear so far that you would like to continue as a teacher of literature, or you wanted to indulge more in research, or do a little bit more in-depth study of literature? Because when we generally talk about academics, there are two aspects to it. One is research, one is teaching,
Mm.
broadly speaking. So, which one of these areas you were more clear in your mind that you would like to go ahead
I think I never thought of further research because we were living in that kind of times
with?
when now research has got a very different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It has started getting a lot of importance.
Mm.
The number of PhDs that we have now in our own country is mind-boggling.
Yes,
It wasn't there at that time in our times.
absolutely.
So getting a PhD in itself was considered to be a huge thing, and then getting a job. I was already working while I was doing my PhD, and I was teaching.
You were teaching.
Yes.
All right.
So I think it never occurred to me that I wanted to go on with
So
further
you were
research.
teaching in PU itself? Or?
No, I wasn't teaching in PU. I was teaching in a college within close to Chandigarh.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it never really occurred to me that I would want to go
So
into
how was
further
it
research.
in your first project? How was it like to be on the other side? Now from a student of literature to being a teacher of literature, what was it like?
So when I my first time when I went into a classroom, the classroom was of 60 students,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 22 years old. And when I entered inside, so I asked them, "Is this the class?" So the girls made way for me. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, please come and sit."
Okay.
I was like,
They
"No, I have
thought you
not
were
come
also
to
a
sit.
student.
I'm going to
Right.
come and teach you." So when I stood in front of the class, for a second, I thought I will not be able to say the first sentence. When I will speak,
Oh,
my voice will just clamp up.
right.
All of those students sitting there, and that's the first time I realized that class is not just about going to a class and just
Yes,
being there. You
absolutely.
have to engage them for the next 60 minutes.
Absolutely.
And if they have to be engaged, it has to be something worthwhile.
Mm.
So it was a complete new revelation for me. And I'm honestly telling you that for many, many days after that, I used to fear entering every time I entered a class that 60 students or so many, even if there were 5 students or however, um, I used to be really scared going into a class, teaching them whether I'll really be able to, because it was less about the content that I would deliver and more about whether I'll be able to hold.
You become self-conscious more
Yes,
in
yes,
your initial exposure to teaching.
yes.
You're more self-conscious about each and everything that you do in class, with your body language, with
That's
the
right.
way you conduct yourself in the class, and everything starts, coming into your mind in the form of a visualization of what you're doing, right? I think that just impacts you more.
And also because you're very new, so of course you do not have that kind of experience. Now, if I'm asked a question which I'm not very sure of, there wouldn't be too many such questions because
Right.
of the experience that now comes with so many years. But if I'm asked a question, because of that experience, I would know how to answer that. Even if I don't know the precise answer, I would know the answer very close enough to that.
Mm.
But at that time, if somebody would ask me something that I would not know, I would not know how to handle it gracefully. I believe that I would suddenly get shocked that, oh, I don't know this. I would go back and check on this, but then it would probably come back to haunt me that, oh my God, I did not know this. So I think that's again suddenly a new life and a new journey that you start on. And it takes you several years before you can sit with that confidence in the class that now, if I'm asked anything, I know much more than what I'm teaching. And I think in every class, that's what my
There's something
supervisor
new.
used to tell
Yeah.
me, that if you have to teach a course, you
You
first have to
study.
study 20
Absolutely.
books related to that one course.
Yes.
So
That's
yes,
required.
that's where you're going to get your understanding. It has to be so thorough so that you can then speak. And today, I feel that if I'm given a topic, any topic, I mean, even if I'm given the name of a single poet or an author or a writer or a novelist or a playwright, I think I can very easily, without any preparation, speak for 1 hour.
1 hour. Easily.
Not
right.
nonsense, sense.
Yes, of course, of course. That
Yes.
is important. Uh, how do you see the scope of literature, English literature and academics from Indian context, from Indian education context, because a lot of times humanities and subjects of humanities and social sciences are undermined in terms of the value of these subjects
Hmm.
to the society, to the young minds, from the perspective of giving them some kind of employment or
Hmm.
source of
Hmm.
income or source of livelihood. And that's why, from the very conservative mindset, when uh, most often in society we try to compare sciences
Hmm.
with humanities and social sciences, our very irrational bend of mind tells us that science is a more lucrative
Hmm.
field than humanities and social sciences. The ones who
Hmm.
choose humanities and social sciences are dumb. That's one kind of perception, and a long drawn perception that has been carried
Hmm.
for several
Hmm.
age. Now, with literature, there is another kind of baggage of perception, which is that people who read literature have no other work to do other than just reading
Stories.
poetry,
Hmm.
stories,
Living
कहानी.
in a fantasy
या ये तो
land.
कहानी पढ़ते हैं,
Fiction. Huh.
नॉवल पढ़ते हैं, नाटक करते हैं, अ, नौटंकी करते हैं
Huh.
बेसिकली. और इनका कोई वैल्यू नहीं
Hmm.
है, वैल्यू ओरिएंटेड नहीं है ये कोर्स.
Value oriented, and also people
हाँ.
feel that you don't have to put in any effort in these
Yeah.
courses.
Right.
Somehow, ऐसे like I really
इवन फॉर दैट मैटर, रिसर्च को लेकर भी ये
hmm.
परसेप्शन
कि
है
इसमें क्या रिसर्च करेंगे
कि
आप?
इसमें क्या रिसर्च करने को है,
हाँ.
या इसका क्या वैल्यू है, आउटकम क्या है.
Hmm. So what is the value that
Yes.
what are you giving back to the society?
Yes.
I think
So
yeah.
what is your understanding of this whole misplaced perception that is there in the society, and from that perspective, how do you see the scope of literature and academics?
I think literature and humanities, for that matter, they've been ignored for so long. Primarily because science and mathematics have been considered to be the things which have been, which have brought this technology to us. So we are told that what you're doing is not productive. Therefore, anything which is not productive is not bringing in money.
Mm.
And ultimately, everything gets connected to the finances.
True.
So, the reason why humanities have been relegated to the backseat is because they're not bringing in money. Therefore, everyone, when they want to step into this field, they know this. They come with this belief that they would not be able to earn as much as the person who's studying a science course. But then again, I believe in this current era, the importance of humanities has increased manifold with the coming of extreme technology. And with the coming of this artificial intelligence, human emotions, humanity is very important, and that is why it's so important to teach humanism. When we teach the concept of modernism to our students, which started, you must be aware of this, in the 1900s.
Absolutely.
So what started happening at that time is that people started moving towards technology, and they started isolating themselves from each other and also moving away from religion.
True.
Man became so disillusioned with himself because technology cannot give you that inner peace, and that is
True.
when individualism started. That is when inner monologues or this stream of consciousness started. Man was given importance as an individual. And today we see there are so many mental breakdowns, so many nervous breakdowns.
Correct.
When you work the whole day, what do you go back and do? Don't you watch Netflix?
True.
Don't you watch a film? Don't you do Instagram? What is all this? I'm sure all of this has been brought to us through technology, but it's not technology which is making those stories. आप कहानियां ही देखते हैं ना, अपने आप को अनवाइंड करने के लिए. कहानियां सुनते हैं, सुनाते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, डांस देखते हैं, कुछ भी देखते हैं. लोग तो बिग बॉस भी देख लेते हैं.
म्यूजिक सुनते हैं.
So म्यूजिक सुनते हैं. म्यूजिक इज पोइट्री.
Right.
एंड वो पहले जो लिरिक जिसको हम कहते हैं, they were actually poems written to be sung accompanied with the lyre. It was an instrument, right?
True.
So we do not realize how much of literature, how much of humanities we are living with every single day in our lives. Humanities is important in order to strike that balance. You may be very rich,
Mm.
but that happiness that comes from that satisfaction, that
Mm.
balance that you bring, that those relationships that you have with each other,
Mm.
at the end of the day, I think there's nothing like literature, nothing like reading a book,
Mm.
even if you do not want to pursue it as a career.
Mm.
Nothing like doing like that.
What do you want the English literature field to develop into in Indian academics in times to come, where the present generation can also contribute significantly, or to a great extent, you think that the present generation needs to imbibe in them certain practices, certain skills, or certain approaches to further enhance the scope of English literature and its importance, the
Hmm.
importance that you spoke about just now.
I'll answer this question by going back a little in
Mm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
When when literature, say 20, 30 years ago, there were a lot of things that literature needed. Studies of English literature. In fact, for that matter, English as a subject, as a language, and as literature was introduced in the early 1900s. Before that, English literature was not taught as a subject anywhere in the world.
Mm.
It was in 1880s that Oxford University introduced it. And it was just taught just for the sake of language.
Right.
Literature was not taught. And when it
Right.
was when people tried to bring in literature, English literature as a subject, it was thwarted. They said that when we are teaching history or when we're teaching anything, there are certain things that we're teaching them. They are facts.
Mm.
How are we going to examine these people on the basis of thought? How are we going to examine opinion?
Right.
How are we going to examine? So it was a challenge.
True.
And it was then Cambridge introduced it in the early 1900s, and that's when proper criticism came in.
Okay.
That's when the critical theory set in. Before that, criticism was also just done ऐसे ही, like for morality purposes literature लिखा जाता है, इससे हम
Correct.
moral सीखते हैं.
Right.
ईसोप के फेबल है तो इसमें moral of the story क्या है? ये होता है अच्छा काम करना चाहिए, बस उतना. Then you had these new criticism come in, formalist theory come in. वो काफी सालों तक वो चलती है, उसके बाद post modernism आता है और दुनिया ही बदल जाती है literature की. But with that, uh, there has been earlier what was there, masters in English literature. Now you see the department where I graduated from, the department is called the Department of English and Cultural Studies.
Correct.
Right? So that it incorporates as many things as it can. So film studies becomes a part of it. Animated films become a part of it. Linguistics, of course, has always been there. Oh, that's a very technical take on it then. Then graphic novels come in.
Right.
And so many other things, autobiographies, prison narratives, the world literatures, translation studies, comparative literatures. Now there are masters in film studies, masters in comparative literatures, masters in aesthetics of literature. There are so many different fields. So literature really had taken off, and it was diversified to a large extent.
Okay.
But now what I feel that everything was happening and everything was going on a very good line, but this current generation has stopped reading enough. And I feel that it is very essential to read. Reading, the span, the attention span is going down because of the social media, because of the mobiles, or because of the technology in every person. So until and unless you love to read, you're never going to love literature. And until and unless you do not love literature, it's going to be of no use. Because if you are just doing a degree for the sake of getting an employment tomorrow, it has to. Literature is about your heart and soul. It's less about the mind, and it's more about your heart and soul. Yes. So I think that's where we've now started suddenly missing.
Okay.
Yes.
So before moving further, I would like you to recite any one poem of your interest which you've been reading of late, or something which you liked during your graduation days.
Okay, I need some time for this.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
a poem
Yeah.
that I want to,
Okay.
but I will have to
You want to have a
kind
look at
of,
your
yes,
mobile phone?
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
please do. Please do. Please do.
So that's a poem called.
Okay.
I teach it also.
Okay.
Although I really like yeah, WB. No, not this Robert Frost, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening.
All right.
I really like that one,
Okay.
but I would not recite that. It's a very common one. The
Okay.
one which I am completely in love with is W.B. Yeats' Aired Wishes for the Clothes of Heaven. It's a very short poem,
Mhm.
and although I remember the last portion, but still I think I can just kind of read it if I'm able to find it here. Yeah. So can I read it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Had I the heavens embroidered cloths,
Mhm.
enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams.
Mhm.
Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
Wow.
So these last 3 4 lines I remembered,
You still remember.
but this
Any particular reason why you love this poem?
when I read it,
Anything
I
that,
fell in love with. Of course, you,
any
yes.
particular emotion that is
This is
attached
about,
with this
yes. So
poem?
this is a poem about love. So you are in this person is in love with somebody, and he is ready to give every single thing, the most precious. He says that I will give you the most precious thing that's ever made, ever was there.
Mhm.
I will give you the most precious. So what can be the most precious thing? I can give you clothes which have been embroidered by with the silver light of the stars and the moon and the golden light of the sun. Nothing can be more celestial, more pure.
Right.
And if I have that much of wealth to be able to get that, I would still put them under your feet. That's the level of love that I have. But
Okay.
unfortunately, I not that rich. But I being poor have only my dreams.
Mm.
And now here comes the catch, because that person, any poor person, has only his dreams through which he can achieve something in
Achieve
his life. And if he is
certain
ready to sacrifice his dreams
Mm.
also for his love,
Mm.
there can be nothing bigger than that love. And he's ready to put his dreams under the feet of that person. And he says, tread softly, because you're treading on my dreams, because he's not even asking for a reciprocation in that love.
Mm.
So that purity, that level of unconditional love, I think that is something that just took me away.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful. And what a wonderful point to also ask you this question about your personal life. A bit about your personal life from the perspective of literature. So you, in between the conversation which we were having 10 minutes back, you spoke about you ended up marrying an army officer, right? What was it like marrying an army officer, and what uh, made this happen? So what I'm trying to ask is, basically, was it an arranged marriage, or was it a love that turned into arranged?
It was actually an arranged marriage that turned into a love marriage, because
Okay. Wonderful.
he, no, we were not dating each other as such.
Mhm, mhm.
We didn't know each other. We met through our parents, who then didn't want us to get married to each other. So then we decided to just get married to each other. Like it was
Okay.
like that. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And the primary reason was that my dad said that why should you marry an army officer? No,
Mm.
it would be detrimental to your growth, to your family
Mm.
life later on, stability, etc.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's how it happened. So it was the other way around. An arranged marriage which turned into a love one. So I
Mm.
had to really fight it out, honestly.
Okay. Alright.
So it became that kind of problem where we had to really fight it out for maybe 2 years.
Mhm. So is he also kind of interested in literature, or now he's forced to
No.
like literature because you are a teacher of literature?
No. He's not a person who can be forced to do anything. He
Huh.
was is completely different from me. He's an engineer,
I know. No.
and he doesn't understand. He's never read a book in his life.
Okay.
The only book that he would read would be Sam Manekshaw,
Mhm.
and that's the only book that he's read. And no, he's completely averse to reading and literature. If he reads anything, it has to be completely related to his work.
Work.
So, science and humanities, as I said, balance is very important.
So you bring
Yes,
that balance.
of course. I wonder what would have happened if you'd married another person like him.
And about your lovely daughter now, Inayat.
Hmm.
Uh, what do you see in Inayat in terms of her interests? Now she's very small.
Hmm.
She's very young right now. As a child, what kind of uh, qualities do you see in Inayat as she's growing up in terms of her liking
Hmm.
for which subject she finds more interest in?
See, she is brilliant in her English. Her
Right.
entire school knows this.
Wonderful.
And the kind of words that she uses, sometimes she amazes me as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she's in class 4 and her English is to the T. If the teacher writes something wrong, she would never copy it wrong. Hers will be, and if even she's the only one who would always get full marks in English, and she prides herself in that. Her vocabulary, her understanding is perfect. But then she's good in other subjects as well. But she is very good in her drawing. Her father is a very good artist, and so is she. And she has this amazing patience
Okay.
where she can draw for the rest of her life. It's like that. So that's one passion that she has. But I feel that she's a very positive person. Even when she doesn't do something well, she somehow believes it so wholeheartedly in her heart that she is going to do this and she's going to win it. And she ultimately does.
Oh,
So I think her strength lies in that.
so both mother and father have contributed equally
Maybe.
in her academics, I believe.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah? Wow, wonderful. So, in our last bit of conversation, how do you see your career path in coming years in terms of your contribution to literature? What would it like be, or in terms of what you would like to do with literature in times to come? As a as an academic, how would you like to contribute to literature?
That's a difficult one. I don't know about my contribution. I always feel like that I
You're
need.
already doing so much.
Yes,
For
so
our
no, but
viewers, I must say that she is uh, continuously researching, publishing, writing papers, writing books, articles, continuously making presentation on different areas of study. So, from that perspective, Dr. Navneet is already uh, in the verge of contributing extensively in this uh, field of literature. But what I wanted to know basically from you is when we spoke about and when we interacted about the scope of English literature, from that perspective, where do you see putting your own bit to developing literature?
um, I personally really have a lot of interest in research. So when I teach my students, I feel that one place where Indian education system, as far as literature is concerned, teaching literature is concerned, is lacking is that we do not introduce theory or research ethics in graduation. We introduce them in the last year of masters, that also in just one paper.
Correct.
So that they do not understand why they are studying so much of difficult theories, why they are studying death of the author, Roland Barthes, Derrida, deconstruction, postmodern theories. Why are they doing this? They don't know that. We need, so it's very important, rather than telling our students that do this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're supposed to do. No. Anyways, when we are teaching literature, it's not exhaustive. We are just teaching them a few things. We are teaching them how to approach literature. And I feel that as I've tried to, at least in my master's student, instill that research interest. I tell them why they study every subject. What is the difference between approaches to literature 1 and 2? Why did you study that? Why are you studying this? How can you use this? Why are you studying this? Why is it important? And then I give them a lot of examples. I said, this is the basis. After your master's, whatever you decide to do is a different thing. But to a large extent, your research is going to be centered on this. And the same thing, I think, should be introduced to the students of graduation as well. And that, I think, is a challenge, because I've seen in a lot of courses that international universities in the West, they, in fact, the basics of books that we study in our
The readings,
masters,
yeah.
my readings, they were actually written for graduation students of the West, for
Mm.
their for the undergraduate studies.
Imagine. Yeah.
Yes. So that is where we are lacking, and I think, and we should really bring in them so that
Mm.
students do not fear theory.
Correct.
It is not something. It is not,
Not
when we talk about
something to be
theory and
scared of.
practical. No, no, ऐसा नहीं होता है. वो आपको अब वो आपको सिखाता है कि किसी भी चीज के इन डेप्थ में कैसे जाना है.
हम्म,
ऊपर से तो कोई भी पढ़ लेगा,
बिल्कुल.
अपना ओपिनियन भी कोई भी दे देगा. आपको कैसे पता चलेगा एक देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन रीडिंग एंड स्टडिंग ना. वो चीज आपको कहाँ से लानी है.
हम्म,
तो ये हमें थिंकर्स, क्रिटिक्स, स्कॉलर्स, ये सारे इंपॉर्टेंट टाइम से इंट्रोड्यूस करने हैं, आई थिंक.
True.
So even if they are not introduced as part of our syllabus, my endeavor is to introduce them to the students bit by bit and bring in their interest, not as something that they would fear in the future.
Slowly
So
and
that's,
steadily.
yeah.
And finally, before we end our podcast for today, is there one message that you would like to give to our young viewers who are interested in English literature? Any particular advice or any particular suggestion that you would like to give the young minds who are interested in studying English literature, maybe in their graduation, maybe in their masters, or probably the ones who are aspiring to do their doctoral research in literature?
I think a very simple, or you may kind of call it a very cliche advice, I would say that read as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best advice that I can
Right.
give you, while that
Right.
read as much as you can.
Mm.
Pick up books, and once you start reading, you will see that there is this huge ocean of knowledge that's lying there. And when we say that it is a sub fiction है, ऐसा होता नहीं है. It is fiction, but it actually teaches you a lot, because it is inspired by real events. If you write a book tomorrow, or if I write a book tomorrow, what is it going to be? It is just going to be a summary of all my life experiences. Whether I
Absolutely.
want to avoid that or not, it's not going to happen. Ultimately, I am a sum total of all the life that I
The
have
product
lived.
of
Yes,
our
of my
times.
circumstances,
Yes.
of my social structure, of
Yes.
my political circumstances, and everything. So you must read, and you will see that it will open a vista in front of you, and you would simply fall in love, and it will teach you a lot.
True.
Teach you a lot. Teach you how to talk, how to make conversation, teach you sympathy, teach you empathy, and all of these things are very important. And
Absolutely.
once you will get into this, once you will delve into this sea, you will really realize why I'm saying this. So
Thank you
that's my
so
message.
much, Dr. Navreet.
Thank
It
you
was
for
wonderful
inviting me.
interacting
Thank
with
you
you.
so much. I loved
And
it.
I hope our viewers have gained a lot from this conversation. I hope all of you were able to, take a lot of insight from this conversation. And with that, we'd like to end our today's episode. मैं ये आशा करता हूँ कि आपको आज का एपिसोड पसंद आया होगा. आज की बातचीत अधिकतर अंग्रेजी में रही. उसका कारण बट ऑब्वियस है, बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. बट ये चाहूँगा मैं कि आप लोग सब हमारे चैनल के साथ जुड़े रहें, हमारे सारे एपिसोड्स को जाके सुने गुफ्तगू सीरीज़ के, और कमेंट्स में अपने फीडबैक भी ज़रूर हमें दें. लाइक करें, शेयर करें, हमारे चैनल को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रमोट करें. हमें इससे पता चलेगा कि आपको क्या पसंद आ रहा है, क्या नहीं पसंद आ रहा है. What is it that you would like us to bring in our Guftagoo series, or if there is anything else that you would like me to experiment with in times to come, that also you can share. Thank you very much for joining for today's episode. Yes.